Hi, I'm Daz. I'm the producer of The Drift and the creator of Starlight, and that's something that you're going to hear probably a little bit more now, because Starlight is something that's kind of not taking over the world. Hopefully it will do, but for right now it's taken over my world, but in a positive way, and also something that's completely intrinsic with The Drift. So Drift is still moving forward too, but it's sort of come to a point with Starlight as well that I'm going to have to kind of discuss that too at the same time, because like I say, they're both connected. So if I sort of go back in time a little bit and sort of perhaps tell you a bit about the origins of Starlight in terms of where the Drift is concerned, is that Starlight is a project that an idea that I've had for a number of years. In fact, the earliest recorded time is back till 2007, 2008, and it started when I went to Disney World. I'm not going to say too much more than that at the moment, but the point being is that from that point, Starlight was created, and as I was sort of working on that universe, basically the story became very, very big, and I wasn't going to be able to make the whole story, or certainly at this level, not because like Star Wars, where it was just too big, the adventure was too long. It wasn't quite like that. It was a case of, from a production point of view, that I wouldn't have the resources at that time that I needed to make Starlight. So some things that were moved forward was Cinders, and engaging with the sort of professionals and the semi-professional and the newbies all together. And that kind of moved forward a little bit, and then the story got very complicated, as in the production story. So we then looked at doing one bit of the Starlight universe, which was The Drift, and that's where The Drift came about. And since then, obviously we're filming The Drift, and now we're in post-production, which I'll talk a little bit about in a minute in terms of where we are with that. But also, I've been sort of, since Cinders and what have you, sort of networking with people in the industry, and they're now sort of taking an interest into Starlight. So that's kind of made Starlight come to the fore because of the interest that's been generated in London and now New York. So obviously that's taken up some of my time. But equally, The Drift is also taken up some of my time in terms of the interest in London and New York as well. So they're kind of connected, and they should be, because they're set in the same universe. So a lot of questions are being asked about, well, what's The Drift all about, and where does that come from, and how does that fit in with Starlight, and all that kind of thing. So as much as The Drift, in terms of output, has slowed down, its development has continued. So that's obviously a good thing. So that kind of put me in a difficult sort of position as to sort of where I sort of put myself and what time I allocate to each of the tasks. So at the moment I'm just kind of juggling both of those. All my other projects and stuff have been put on hold, so the focus now is purely on the Starlight universe, which includes The Drift. So let's look at The Drift then in terms of what I've been up to sort of lately, what's happening. Well, the visual effects plan hasn't worked, and that's understandable. It hasn't worked because we're actually using the same model that we used in Ten Clones, Star Wars and Cinders, and they didn't work very well either. But the idea was to sort of move that forward with some subtle changes to see if we could make it work, and that hasn't worked. So what I've had to do is basically sort of reboot, or in the process of rebooting the whole visual effects process. So in a nutshell, that means that all the visual effect work is on hold until I and Helen and Matt have produced a new and tested visual effect process. And then once that's been tested and we're happy with it, we'll then push that out. The aim is to push that out in the new year. So why didn't it work? What are the failings? Well, it's nothing attributed to any one individual, but the general challenge of having to deal with working with people over a distance with a complex workflow, just transferring files and project files and ideas and all that in a creative environment, yet something that's disparate. That's a challenge. So the response has been quite slow from the artists, because it's difficult to work from a distance, unlike the set building, which I've discussed before. Everyone has to go to the set to build it, or everyone doesn't have to go to one place to make the effects, although that's always better but not always easy, especially if people are in Mexico or in Spain or in Europe as much as they are in the UK. It's not an easy process. So that's been a problem. We haven't achieved enough effects in the time that we've had. In 5 months, we haven't achieved anywhere near the number we could have done. And this isn't even perhaps things like complicated effects, but even things just like just green screen and stuff like that. So that's okay. So new strategy. You know, we're not paying these people. We can't make them do it, and you know it's meant to be fun too. So it doesn't mean it can't be hard work, but at the same time it has to be fun, and it's not being fun, and it's actually slowed me down. So we're resetting, rebooting, and hopefully in January we'll have some new ideas and some new strategies to actually make that work. So that's that. We filmed a couple of weekends ago, almost a couple of weekends ago now. We filmed the last few pickups. We did 2 scenes and some little bits and bobs. We had all the space stuff was done on the blue screen at the University of Lincoln. That went down really, really well. Looked really good, and it was nice to have everyone back together again, filming together. Quite a comfortable rate of work as well, unlike the actual drift shoot itself, because it was just one scene to shoot in an entire day. So that was great. And then we also then shot the corridor, a few little corridor bits, some pickup bits with the captain the next day as well as a few little sort of scenes that we decided to add since we'd edited the film. So we've actually looked at the script, looked at the edit, and decided that actually we need another scene here, and we've actually shot that. So that was great, and picked up some pickup lines, some audio too. So that really means now that in terms of live action, the drift is now as done, and I've also edited that into the cut. So it's only a first cut of those scenes, so they're still pretty rough, but they're like placeholder edits. So basically, it means that we know what happens here and what happens there, and we can start tightening it up. So the next sort of phase with the drift is, for me, sort of 2 things. One is in response to the visual effects strategy, I need to storyboard or put placeholders in with CGI and bits and bobs into the edit and be more helpful to the artist in what I need, not just say, well, we need some shots, that's not good enough, we need to be more specific. You know, storyboarding, not that I'm brilliant at that, but anything's better than nothing. And the second thing is to really start tying up the edit and connecting everything and looking at what extra dubbing needs to be done. There's quite a few bits and bobs, certainly in the first third of the movie, where there's a lot of radio work where the guys are all separated but they're all talking on radios. And there's definitely some bits and bobs there that are missing that could really tie up quite nicely and make it much tighter and more exciting. So we're going to, Stu and I are going to start looking at what extra script we can put in there. And it's an easy one because you know, you get the guys to record it, obviously, but also because it's all on radio, you can make it. You change the sound to make it like on the radio, so you don't have to worry about the change in the dubbing and all that kind of thing. So that's the next thing. So I think in the next sort of 5 weeks or so, running up to Christmas and over Christmas, that's my sort of strategy is to look at that and tie that all up. Because I'm getting a bit tired, to be honest, as well. So I think it would be a good way of sort of sitting back and watching the film and writing my notes and criticising my own production and looking at what needs to be done to make it as I wanted it to be in the first place. And then in the new year to actually push that forward with a new visual effects strategy and perhaps a new edit strategy as well. So, and at the same time, of course, Starlight is moving forward too. So whatever London tells me that they need or want, then I'll have to obviously respond to that. So this is all very much depending on what happens there too. So it's a difficult sort of. I've got a plan, and then it's London will come in and just sort of turn it upside down, and then because they need something, I have to obviously respond to, and I want to respond to. It's not a case of that they're getting in the way. This is all stuff that I wanted to happen and want to happen, so it's good. But we'll see what happens. I'm hoping, to be honest, a little bit. I could do with a couple of weeks off and London just perhaps winding down for Christmas too. That would be very handy, because that will give me that break that I need just to sort of reboot myself and refresh and be ready for the new year. It's been a busy old year, obviously, with the filming in February and March, and then clearing it, and then a career change and all the rest of it. So things have been intense. Also, sort of last little thing, just back on the Starlight side, you might have noticed the new pictures behind me that I've actually been in contact with a few artists across the internet, and some of them have responded already, and they're starting to send me a few bits and bobs of sort of concept work. So some pictures are sort of coming through now, which is really, really good, because that really helps. In fact, the image behind me has actually helped me create a whole scene in Starlight that I hadn't really thought about. So it just shows how powerful just a single picture can be. If someone else looks at it and draws it, and you see it, and suddenly it just gets the brain spinning and the imagination into overdrive to come up with something. So that's good too. So there we are. That's I think that's where we are at the moment. And back to some more research.